My name is Nora Elaine Whitaker, 35. I've learned that some betrayals don't arrive like thunder. They arrive like a text message pretending to be reasonable. 3 weeks before my mother's birthday, my phone lit up while I was rinsing strawberries at the sink. Sister, text. Hey, just FYI, this year's birthday is going to be adults only. Kids are great, but money's tight, and mom just wants a chill night. Hope that's okay. No apology, no explanation, just a shrug of a message, like this was normal. Behind me, Jake hunched over math worksheets, pencil tapping in small, frustrated bursts. Ellie sprawled on the floor beside the fridge, filling the world with pink crayons. Grandma's birthday is a ritual. Cake, cousins, chaos. A thing my kids count down to. I stared at the text. 8 months of my sister living in my basement, rent-free. 6 mouths at my table. Daycare double billed because her daughter is in Ellie's class. My car, my streaming. My grocery lists swollen with snacks that don't last a day. If anyone should be strapped, it wasn't me. And still, there it was. Adults only. I almost typed back, almost asked what she meant by money's tight, but I didn't. I told myself I wouldn't start a fight, not again, and slid the phone into the dish towel like I could dry the sting off it. That night, my boyfriend, Daniel, asked what we were doing for Mom's birthday. Adults only, I said, aiming for casual. Money's tight, low-key. He raised an eyebrow. The "you sure?" kind. But he dropped it because he's learned that in my family, logic often loses to loyalty. We took the kids to the park that weekend and bribed the disappointment with ice cream. It worked for about an hour. After lunch, I opened Facebook, a reflexive scroll to cool my brain. The first image hit me like a belt of cold air. Silver balloon arch. My mother holding a mimosa under a caption with 3 glittering hearts. Happy birthday to the best mom in the world. I clicked. Second photo, a mass of people, my mother, my father, 4 cousins, their kids, even the neighbor's toddler, perched in my sister's lap. Third photo, a table buckling under catered Italian, lasagna, chicken marsala, garlic knots from the old restaurant Mom always chose before my sister moved in and changed everything. Fourth, an actual magician in a sequined vest, glitter in the sunlight, kids howling, faces lit. Fifth, face painting. Sixth, a bounce house swallowing the yard in inflatable joy. I scrolled and scrolled over a dozen kids, none of them mine. Jake drifted up behind me, chin propped on my shoulder, squinting at the screen. Wasn't there no party? He asked. In that literal way, kids ask questions that untie knots in adults' throats. I locked my phone and looked out the window because my face was doing a thing I didn't want him to see. After a beat, I went downstairs to the office, opened the drawer where I keep the white envelope I prep on the 5th of every month. $950, my sister's rent, a theater prop in a show called Gratitude that never had an ending. I took out a thick Sharpie, crossed out her name, and wrote in huge letters, "Return to sender." I snapped a photo and sent it. No words. 40 minutes later, my phone shook like a live thing. First my sister, then Dad, then my sister again, then a text from Dad. "What the hell is going on? Call me now." I let it buzz. I knew exactly what was going on. The lie unraveled, and I was done helping it stay neat. 3 hours passed. A new text from my sister. "Can you not be dramatic? It was just easier without more kids. It wasn't personal." 5 minutes later. "Also, what does the rent envelope mean? Are you mad about something else?" I didn't respond. I was finished explaining myself to people who had never once tried to understand me. At 8 on the dot, someone knocked, 3 brisk taps. My sister always knocks in 3s. I opened the door. She stood alone on my porch, arms folded, wearing a sparkly t-shirt. Mom's Birthday Bash 2025. The logo glared in the porch light. She inhaled and used that calm voice she saves for lies. It was supposed to be small. It just got bigger. You know how people are. No one was trying to exclude you. I asked one question. "Why did you tell me there was no party?" Her mouth opened, closed, shuffled excuses. She settled on, "Because your kids are loud. They run around. Mom wanted one day without that." Words can be a sledgehammer or a scalpel. This one was both. I said nothing. The quiet let her keep digging. "You're making a huge deal out of something that wasn't about you," she added. Soft, almost sympathetic, like gaslighting, could sound like care if you sanded it enough. There it was, the sentence that clicked the gears into place. This wasn't about a party. It wasn't about money. It was about control. For 8 months, she lived off me like it was owed to her. Rent, food, bills, daycare, covered. I never asked for payback, never made her feel small for needing help. And still, she decided who counted and who didn't. She took my help and redecorated her life with it, then couldn't spare a slice of cake for my children. I'm not paying for your life anymore, I said finally. If you stay here next month, you cover your rent. She laughed, a small, sharp sound that bounced off the porch columns. You're overreacting, she said. You're petty. If this is what sets you off, maybe take a look at your life. I stepped back and closed the door. The next morning, her room was empty. Not fully, things still scattered like a pause, but she was gone. Sulking at Mom's? Hiding with a friend? I didn't care. I was frying eggs when the front door opened and Daniel called, Nora, your dad's here. Dad, the diplomat, stood in my kitchen, holding a six-pack like it was a peace treaty. You're not really kicking your sister out over a birthday party, are you? So that's what I was doing. Kicking out. Not setting a boundary, not asking for respect, throwing a tantrum over cake. Did you know about the party? I asked. He shifted. You know how your sister is. We didn't want drama. Are my kids drama? He didn't answer. Your sister has enough on her plate. It's unfair to pile on. I walked to the drawer by the fridge and pulled out a folder. Receipts, transfers, auto payments. I let the stack land on the counter with a thud. $7,800. That's what I've spent in 8 months, I said, on someone who couldn't let my son have a piece of birthday cake. He didn't touch the folder. She's family, he said, soft and grave, like it was sacred text. You don't punish family for being flawed. Punish. As if asking adults to tell the truth is punishment. As if protecting your children from being erased is cruelty. I didn't shout. I've learned that in my family, volume only helps the lie. I nodded, the kind of nod that ends a decade, and walked back to the sink. The conversation followed me like a draft. That night, I changed the Wi-Fi password, disconnected her devices, canceled the food delivery subscription, and stopped the daycare auto transfer. I didn't send a speech. I just flipped the switches I had been holding down. In the morning, her footsteps pounded the basement like a storm warning. A text came. Did you shut off the internet? Seriously? I let the dots blink without answering. Then silence stretched. 2 days long, then 3. On Thursday, I came home to a half-empty basement. Clothes gone, toys packed, food missing from the fridge. No goodbye, no thank you. On the couch, abandoned. The glitter birthday shirt, crumpled into a small, hollow celebration. I should have felt lighter. Instead, I felt a cold sky lowering. I knew this wasn't over. Sunday, we were plating dinner when Mom's name flashed on my phone. I let it ring out. She texted, Please don't do this to your sister. She's having a hard enough time. 10 minutes later, You're not cutting her off over cake. I turned the screen face down and kept eating. Daniel watched me, waited for the post-meal debrief. By the time I tucked the kids into bed, I had 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 from my sister, her first since she left. I answered none. On Monday, Dad came back. No six-pack, no soft start. He didn't wait for an invitation. We need to end this nonsense now, he said. I didn't raise my voice. This wasn't just a party, I said. It was a choice. She lied. She used me. You helped. He blinked, then laughed like I was charmingly naive. You think you're the victim here? Your sister has no job, no stability. You think she planned some conspiracy? I opened the drawer again, the one where I've started keeping proof because I've learned love without evidence gets rewritten by the loudest person in the room. Before you go, I asked, did Mom know Jake and Ellie weren't invited? He hesitated, then nodded. She didn't want to upset you. That was the click I felt in my teeth. Years of one rule. Protect my sister. She gets excuses, I get expectations. She gets grace, I get guilt. That night, I changed the lock on the basement door. I called the landlord of her old place, the one I'd kept paying just in case. I canceled the automatic rent rescue. I transferred the leftover daycare credit to Ellie. I shut down the account I'd opened for her daughter's college fund because you cannot keep pouring into a bucket with no bottom and call it kindness. I blocked my sister everywhere and sent one message to my parents. If you want to stay in my life, you respect my decisions. No more guilt, no more defending her, no more lies. My kids will not be excluded again. If that's petty to you, maybe we shouldn't talk for a while. Dad didn't reply. Mom wrote, "We raised you better than this." I stared at those words for a long time, as if better meant quieter, as if peace meant pleasing the person who hurt you. And then I set the phone face down and listened to my house breathe. The quiet sounded like something new, learning how to live. 2 days of quiet can feel like a lullaby or a trap. This one felt like the air before a thunderclap, charged, metallic on the tongue. The house moved on in its small, decent ways. Jake practiced times tables at the dining table while Ellie taped 2 crayons together to make a double rainbow. Daniel kissed my temple when he left for work and again when he came home, the simple kind of steadiness that makes you realize what's missing everywhere else. I told myself I'd done it, drawn a boundary, and survived the aftershocks. I kept the basement locked, the folder of receipts tucked into the drawer like a seatbelt. The phone was a museum of missed calls I refused to tour. Sunday night, my screen lit up with Mom. I let it go dark. Then her text slid in like a sigh. "We need to talk. Please don't do this to your sister. She's having a hard enough time." 10 minutes later came the benediction that wasn't one. "You're not cutting off your sister over cake." Over cake. That was the abridged version my family preferred, 2 syllables sturdy enough to hold a lie. I set the phone face down and told myself that breathing counts as progress. By the time the kids were down, my call log was a chorus. Mom again, Dad again, my sister's name for the first time since she'd left. I didn't answer, not because there was nothing to say, but because I finally understood that answering had become the same thing as agreeing. Monday afternoon, the front door opened and Dad walked in like he still had a key to my life. No six-pack this time, no softened edges. "We need to end this nonsense now," he said, voice plain, jaw set. I let him talk. The speech was a familiar one. I was magnifying a misunderstanding, punishing flaws, making a storm out of a preference. I told him what I'd told myself. This wasn't a party problem. It was a choice problem, a truth problem. He laughed, not cruel exactly, just dismissive, like I was a sweet child pitching a theory about rain. "Your sister's got no job, no stability," he said. "You think this was easy? You think she sat around plotting how to hurt you?" I didn't argue. Words bend under certain kinds of love. I opened the drawer, laid out the folder, let paper do what voices couldn't. A year of transfers, grocery receipts, delivery subscriptions, daycare invoices, $7,800 that had bought me exactly one lesson. I can give until I disappear and still be called selfish. He didn't touch the papers. Instead, I asked the question that had bloomed in me like a bruise. Did Mom know Jake and Ellie weren't invited? The hesitation was a breath long, but I felt it in my ribs. He nodded. "She didn't want to upset you." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the shape of it was so familiar. Keep me from the truth to protect me from the truth, then blame me for how I react when I finally see it. I thanked him for coming. He left without the folder. He left with the story he'd arrived carrying. After the door clicked shut, I did what I do when I'm scared. I made a list, changed the basement lock, canceled the just-in-case rent on her old apartment I'd been quietly covering, transfer the leftover daycare credit from her daughter to Ellie, close the college fund account I'd opened in a soft, hopeful moment, because I thought love meant building nets under people as they learned to walk. I blocked my sister on everything and wrote one message to my parents: respect my decisions or step aside. No more guilt, no more defending her, no more lies. My kids will not be excluded again. If that's petty to you, maybe we shouldn't talk for a while. Dad said nothing. Mom replied, "We raised you better than this." Better in my family means quieter. Better means patient with other people's storms while apologizing for your own clouds. Better means carry it and pretend it's light. 2 days later, the doorbell rang at 9:52 p.m., the kind of time people choose when they want your no to feel unkind. Through the peephole, I saw my mother alone, a casserole dish balanced in her hands like a prop from a TV forgiveness scene. I cracked the door, but didn't invite her in. She asked if we could talk inside. I told her we could talk right here. She started with scripture-adjacent ideas about families sticking together and the cost of resentment. I listened. "If you want to know how someone thinks love works, Listen to the metaphors they choose. After 5 minutes, the script dropped. Her voice changed, brittle and urgent. "She's staying with us now," she said. "You left her no choice." I almost said, "There are always choices. Some people just never expect to sit with the consequences." But I didn't. I let her keep talking. "She tried to get a job last week," Mom said. "Used your address on the application. The employer called for a background check and they found out about her eviction from last year. She lost the offer." The word eviction slid across the threshold like cold air. "What eviction?" I asked. Mom shifted the casserole from one hip to the other. "Last December, before she moved in with you. We helped her hide it. We thought she'd fix things once she was settled. She begged us not to tell you." There are confessions that feel like release valves, and confessions that feel like traps that finally sprung. This was the second kind. A memory spiked. My sister standing in my kitchen back in January, saying she needed 1 month tops to reset. "Good references," she said. "Just a bridge to better." In my mind, I saw the bridge crumble and realized I'd been underneath it the whole time, hands up. I didn't lecture. I didn't even sigh. I thanked my mother for the truth. Late truth is still truth, and she nodded as if we'd traded something fair and left the casserole on the stoop like a peace offering from another century. Inside, Daniel met me in the hallway, with the look he reserves for moments when the floor shifts. "Want me to heat it up?" he asked, half a smile. I shook my head and told him instead about the eviction, about the job, about my mother's version of no choice. He didn't look surprised. He pressed his palm to the back of my neck, the way he does when he wants me to remember I have a body that needs gentleness too. After he went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a legal pad and went hunting for paper trails. Not out of vengeance, out of self-defense. Evictions don't vanish. Utilities don't float. Names land somewhere. I combed email, searched my name with hers, checked the old apartment ledger I'd been paying just in case. Little lights began to blink in the dark. An account confirmation I didn't remember authorizing, a welcome email from a utility company I'd never called, a saved contact number that didn't belong to me. A thought formed that I didn't want to touch. What else is in my name? I made another list. In the morning, call the landlord, call the utility company, call the daycare to confirm transfers were official, call the credit bureau to watch for new accounts blooming like mold. Before I closed the laptop, I opened a new document and started writing down dates, dollar amounts, the names of people I'd spoken to, the gist of every favor that had turned into a rope. I wasn't building a case to win an argument. I was building a record so I didn't go crazy when the story got rewritten in a tone that made me sound cruel. The house settled around me, pipes ticking, wind shouldering the eaves, ordinary sounds that felt like a lullaby from a life I was trying to protect. I turned off the lights and stood for a second in the doorway to the kids' rooms, listening to the soft animal hush of sleep. That's the thing about boundaries no one tells you. From the outside, they look like walls. From the inside, they feel like windows opening. The next morning began like normal, which is to say, it began with serial complaints and single-digit math problems and a missing shoe under the couch that somehow took all of us to find. On the drive to school, Jake asked if Grandma was mad at him. I told him no, that none of this was his fault, that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices and other grown-ups have to make hard choices to keep everyone safe. He nodded in the solemn way of 8-year-olds who want to be brave. At my desk later, I dialed the landlord first. He confirmed the eviction and the date my mother had said. He also confirmed something else, offhand, like it was a footnote. When my sister applied for that apartment, she'd listed me as a reference. I felt a flash of heat and then let it cool. Maybe she'd asked. Maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe I'd said yes, because that's what I used to do. Say yes and figure out the boundaries later. I hung up and called the utility company attached to the old address. I gave my name. The rep put me on hold. When she came back, her tone had shifted into the careful, scripted one they use when they know the next thing won't land softly. "Ms. Whitaker," she said, "the account associated with that service lists you as the responsible party. There's an outstanding balance of $1,400. Last payment received in July." My chair didn't feel like a chair anymore. "I never authorized that account," I said, steady, because I have learned that steady is how you get to the next sentence. She read back an email address that was mine, a phone number that was mine. I recognized the pattern before I recognized the dates. My sister had used my info the week she moved into my house. Just to set up internet faster, she'd said, smiling with a brand new key in her hand. Somewhere between then and now, the internet had grown arms and legs and a power bill. I thanked the rep, took down the steps to dispute, asked her to note the file, and set the phone down like it might crack if I moved too fast. The legal pad on my desk looked back at me with lines that wanted filling. I wrote $1,400 in a square, drew a box around it like a bruise you measure as it spreads. I was still staring at the number when another email arrived. Subject line, important message from Jackson Elementary, Jake's school. I clicked, heart already sprinting, and began to read. The subject line looked harmless enough, but I've learned that danger rarely announces itself in capital letters. This afternoon, a woman named Lisa Whitaker attempted to pick up your son, Jake. She stated you had asked her to do so. Our records do not show her as an authorized contact. We denied release and contacted you immediately. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My hands went cold, the kind of cold that starts deep, like something inside you suddenly realizes it's not safe. Lisa had tried to take my child. She hadn't texted, hadn't called, hadn't asked. She'd gone there, told them she was helping me because I was overwhelmed. I hadn't seen the call when it came in because I'd been on the phone with the electric company. The school had handled it, thank God. But the thought of what might have happened if they hadn't, that thought didn't leave me. When I picked Jake up that day, I smiled too hard, too bright. He didn't notice. Kids never do when they're loved right. But inside, something had cracked wide open. This wasn't about rent or money anymore. It was about control, and she'd just proved she had none left. That night, I called a lawyer. His name was Andrew Keller, and his calm was surgical. I told him everything. The fake accounts, the unpaid bills, the attempted pickup, the pattern of gaslighting. He listened without flinching, then said, "We'll file for a restraining order, and we'll start documenting everything, text messages, screenshots, emails, account statements, even that letter from the school. From now on, you communicate through paper." It felt like I was stepping out of the role they'd written for me, the good daughter, the reliable sister, the emotional sponge, and into something steadier, colder, necessary. By Thursday morning, the papers were filed. That same afternoon, my phone lit up again. Lisa, this time calling from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. Then came the messages. "I can't believe you'd do this. You're ruining the family. We could have fixed this if you'd just called." I didn't respond. I'd already said everything that needed saying by staying silent. At 7:30 p.m., headlights swept across the living room wall. Daniel peeked through the blinds. "She's here," he whispered. Lisa stood on the sidewalk, still shouting before I'd even opened the door. Her voice carried the same mix of outrage and disbelief that had colored my entire childhood whenever she faced consequences. "You think you can erase me?" she screamed. "After everything I've been through? You're sick, Nora. You always have been." Jake and Ellie were upstairs. I stood in the doorway, heart hammering, but voice even. "Lisa, leave. Now, or I'm calling the police." She took a step forward. "Go ahead," she yelled. "Tell everyone how perfect you are." Daniel came to stand beside me. He didn't say a word, just held up his phone, recording. That shut her up faster than anything else had in months. For a long minute, we just looked at each other. Two strangers wearing the same last name, separated by every lie she'd ever told. Then she turned and stalked away, muttering things I couldn't make out. That night, my dad left me a voicemail. Just one line. "We're not that kind of family, Nora." But we were. We were exactly that kind of family. The kind that calls manipulation love and control concern. The kind that excuses cruelty if it's blood deep. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for agreeing with him. The next morning, I woke to 3 new emails. One from the electric company confirming the balance was disputed, one from the school updating the authorized pickup list to include only Daniel and me, and one from my lawyer saying the restraining order had been processed. It was official. Lisa was legally required to stay away, from me, from Daniel, from the kids, from our home, from their school. The house felt quieter, but it wasn't peace yet. It was that strange, in-between silence after a storm, when everything's still dripping, but the air's already clean. Days passed. No calls, no knocks. Even my parents went silent. Until Sunday. I was folding laundry when I saw her car in the driveway, except she wasn't inside it. My mother was. She stood by the hood, arms crossed, her face pinched. in the way that says she's about to make guilt sound like wisdom. I didn't open the door. I spoke through the camera instead. Mom, you can leave the message here. She looked directly into the lens. Are you really going through with the restraining order? Yes. You don't understand what this will do to the family. I understand exactly, I said. It'll keep my kids safe. She shook her head, the kind of slow disbelief that only comes from a lifetime of enabling someone. This isn't you. You're not cruel. That part stung, not because she was right, but because she still couldn't tell the difference between cruel and done. When she left, I sat on the stairs for a long time. Daniel came over and leaned against the wall beside me. You okay? I think so, I said. I think I'm just empty. He nodded. Empty is good sometimes. It means the poison's out. I smiled, faint. He was right. The silence felt like oxygen again. The week rolled by quietly. Jake's science fair project, Ellie's spelling test, late-night dinners that didn't feel tense anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to explode. Then, Saturday morning, the phone rang. It was Aunt Claire, my mother's older sister. Sweetheart, she said, voice warm but edged with curiosity. I just wanted you to know. I saw what happened. You did the right thing. I blinked. You know? Of course, she said. Your dad's been telling everyone you cut Lisa off over cake, but families talk. The truth leaks out eventually. I let out a shaky laugh. Over cake, that's the version now? That's the version for people who like fairy tales, Aunt Claire said. But the rest of us live in the real world. It shouldn't have meant as much as it did, but hearing one person in my bloodline say, I believe you cracked something open in me I hadn't realized was still locked. Later that day, Daniel took the kids to the park. I stayed home to sort through a box of old photos, the kind Mom used to keep in shoeboxes. Lisa's handwriting was on some of the backs. Smiling faces, birthdays, matching dresses, all frozen moments before things started to rot. I tore the duplicates in half, kept the originals for the kids' sake, and put them in a separate folder labeled Before. That night, I dreamed of the basement. Empty now, but echoing. In the dream, I walked down with a flashlight and found the glittery birthday shirt folded neatly on the couch, glowing faintly in the dark. I picked it up, and when I turned, the door had shut behind me. When I woke up, the house was quiet, sunlight pooling across the floorboards. I made pancakes and let the smell fill every corner. For once, the day began without the weight of waiting for the next crisis. Peace, I realized, doesn't arrive like a miracle. It creeps in quietly once you stop giving chaos a key. A week passed before I heard from my mother again. No phone call this time, no casserole, no driveway confrontation. Just a Facebook post. Public, of course. Some people don't know how to forgive, but I pray for them anyway, especially the ones raising children to do the same. It sat there for 3 hours before she took it down. I didn't comment. I didn't share. I didn't even screenshot it. I just blocked her, and Dad, and Lisa. Because forgiveness doesn't mean walking back into the fire to prove you're no longer afraid of burning. It means learning where the exits are and using them. That night, after the kids went to bed, I opened my photo gallery and scrolled. There were hundreds of pictures. Birthdays, vacations, school events. And in the middle of them, Lisa, holding Ellie as a baby, laughing at the camera, smiling in ways I couldn't tell were real anymore. I deleted them all. Not out of hate, out of clarity. Because every image was a story she'd rewritten later to make herself the victim. Every smile had been a receipt I'd never meant to pay. Then I archived our messages. The arguments. The apologies that always came too late. The manipulations dressed as family. For the first time, the silence in my phone didn't feel like loss. It felt like space. The following Sunday, we got an invitation from my cousin Ben, one of the few relatives who'd kept quiet through it all. He was throwing a small birthday dinner for his son. You and the kids are absolutely invited, he said over the phone. No politics, no drama, just family who actually want to see you. It shouldn't have made me tear up, but it did. That's the thing about being constantly on guard. You forget what safety feels like until it arrives so gently, you almost mistake it for something else. When Sunday came, Daniel helped Ellie pick a dress. Jake wrapped the present himself, a Lego set he'd bought with his own allowance. We loaded into the car, and for once, the drive felt light. Halfway there, my phone buzzed, an unknown number. A text. Check your mailbox. I froze. Daniel noticed the way my hand tightened around the phone. Nora? It's fine, I lied, but I already knew whose number it was. We turned around. The envelope was shoved halfway into the slot. No stamp, no address, just my name scrawled across the front. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper, torn from a spiral pad. 3 sentences written in the same looping handwriting Lisa had used back in high school when she forged Mom's signature for field trips. You win. They're on your side now, too. Hope it was worth it. No apology, no accountability. Just blame, the language she was born fluent in. I read it once, then again, slower. And then I laughed. Not the cruel kind, the relieved kind, the one that bursts out when you realize the person who once terrified you no longer has any power left. Daniel looked at me, eyebrows raised. What's funny? Nothing, I said, slipping the note back into the envelope. Just closure. He didn't ask more. He didn't need to. We went to Ben's dinner. The kids played with their cousins. Someone brought cupcakes. No one mentioned my parents or Lisa. For the first time in a long time, family didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like belonging. Later that night, after everyone was asleep, I sat by the window with a cup of tea and pulled out the letter again. I turned it over in my hands, tracing the ink grooves like they might still hold meaning. Then I realized they didn't. Lisa hadn't changed, but I had. The old me would have written back, explained, tried one last time to fix what couldn't be fixed. But now I just folded it neatly, slid it into the drawer with the other documents, not as a wound, but as evidence of what I'd survived. Because the truth is, some stories don't end with reconciliation. They end with release. I used to think closure meant sitting down and talking it out. Now I know it means walking away without needing the last word. The next morning, Jake helped me wash the car. Ellie rode her scooter in the driveway. Daniel came out with coffee and grinned at me over the roof of the car. It was an ordinary day, the kind I used to think I didn't deserve. Jake looked up at me suddenly, his brow furrowed. Mom, is Grandma mad at me? The question landed like a small stone in my chest. I crouched beside him. No, honey, she's not mad at you. None of this is your fault. He nodded, uncertain. Are we ever going to see her again? I hesitated, then said the only honest thing I could. I don't know, maybe one day, but right now, we're okay like this. We're safe. He thought about it, then smiled, like safety was an answer he could live with. That night, after the kids were in bed, I slipped Lisa's note into a small wooden box, the same box that used to hold birthday cards and drawings from when we were kids. Now it held something else, proof that letting go is a kind of love too. When I closed the lid, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel sadness. Just peace. The kind that comes when the noise stops and you finally hear yourself think. The kind that whispers, you can stop now. The kind that says, you're free. And for the first time in my life, I believed it.